Oh my gosh.
How's it?
How you doing, bro?
Yeah, I'm good, dude. Very
Man,
good.
I'm so happy to have you on the show today.
Me too.
So just for everybody who's watching, this is Tanner Wareham.
What's up?
Uh, you're a musician coming out of Durban, and I've been really lucky to be able to watch kind of the rise. And
Yeah,
I've been able to
100%.
watch you
Yeah.
go from doing the small gigs all the way up to like the bigger gigs, which has been like a really amazing experience. We're recording here from Tanner's house, swagging that sense of gear. And yeah, man, let's just hop straight into it. Tell us a little bit about your background, about how you got into the music scene, and tell us a bit about you.
Cool. Yeah. So it's been a long process, about 20 years. Um, yeah. When I was a latte, I don't know. I just came home from school one day and all I wanted to do was play piano. I think we were like busting recorders at that point, and I was like, this sucks. But like what the piano teacher's doing, that is cool. So yeah, I was just a bit obsessed, and like everything I did as a child, if I was into it, I would just become fixated, and like that was every
How old is that?
breathing moment. So I was like 6 years old. Yeah, and then I think it was my seventh birthday. Piano came down the hill. My grand was like, "Here we go, let's do it." And yeah, I loved it. I did like 2 years of lessons in like a music shop with this old Indian fella, and yeah, we just played all the classics from Elvis, um, yeah, boogie woogie, you name it. And then yeah, I just got into classical, and I really loved that. Like I think I recorded first CD at like 8, just doing like basic Beethoven stuff, Fur-Elise, all those classics.
Yeah, because Beethoven's basic, eh?
Yeah, yeah, that's basic for him. Um, and yeah, and then I like, went to a bit more of an old school, hardcore classical piano teacher, and then yeah, that was about the next 6 years, like just doing competitions, just yeah, getting better and better, playing very complex stuff. And then when I went into high school, um, I remember playing Guitar Hero at like my one mate's house, and I was like, this is sick, like way more fun. And then I wanted to play guitar, so then I became like very obsessed with electric guitar. Got a guitar, got an amp, and I was like, I'm gonna be the next Hendrix. And yeah, I just started trying to shred, had guitar lessons. So like the piano sort of
So you
fell
went
a bit to
straight
the
electric
wayside.
first. You didn't start with the acoustic.
Yeah, no, I don't know why I was just like, I think I had an acoustic. My older brother had one in the house, so that's what I started. That was my first touch, was that. But then I was like, no, I want an electric, like Guitar Hero and guitar solos. So like I wanted to be a lead guitarist in a rock band. So yeah, so I started doing that, and then actually don't even know how, but I got convinced to do classical guitar. So I think I just became fascinated with both. So then I did my grades, my grade 8s in electric guitar and classical,
Oh wow.
and then finished my piano. Yeah, the problem with the piano is I ended up like losing my teacher to go to one at the school, and I didn't click with her, so I finished the last few years by myself. But yeah, at that point I was like, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was like, okay, I want to be a lead guitarist, but I'm still like enjoying piano, and I don't really know what styles I want to play. So I started like slowly actually just like creating, and I think that's kind of where it started, was at high school, and then went into university. So I was actually going to study. I was keen to go to the States and study at Berkeley.
Wow.
Um,
What were you gonna study at Berkeley?
I wasn't sure yet. I hadn't really figured that out. I was just like, I'm
Oh,
gonna
at
go.
Berkeley.
Yeah, and next were like, yo, John Mayer went there. It's amazing. So I looked at all the ads and all the promo stuff. I'm like, this is kiff. And I read up they had like an African scholarship. So they would take like 3 or 4 students that lived in Africa a year. So I was like, okay, sick. I'm gonna bust my ass, go back to piano, and because that's my strongest suit, and try to get there. But then my parents were like, we want you to do something else first. So they said like, we'll save and pay for you to go to Berkeley if you get a scholarship, but go get a normal degree first. Normal degree. Yeah, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was like, okay, fine, it makes sense. Because obviously like music's always like, when you say you want to make a career in music, everyone's like, whoa, okay.
I was like, oh, okay, sure.
Yeah, especially your parents that like stress out for you. So I did like some aptitude tests because I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I was like, okay, well, I'm good at maths, I'm good at science. First it was like maybe be a doctor, and then the thought of cutting people open was like awful. So I was like, nah. And then someone was like mentioned, oh, well, engineering's a good one to have because you can sort of go into any field. So I ended up going into chemical engineering, Stellenbosch University. Yeah, I spent 4 years there, finished the degree, and then what was cool was while I was there is I started meeting up with some oaks, like sort of sharing music tastes, playing around, covering some songs, and actually formed an indie outfit called chang.
Chang, yes.
So I went from like playing lead to like rhythm, and we basically were just obsessed with the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Like that's all we wanted to do, all we listened to, all we played, and it came through like Tex in the City after we released our first album. We're like, this is the African Chili Peppers, which was us like, yes, exactly what we want to hear. And that was awesome. We had a good time, and that's only really where I started to sing. I sort of did like I was
So
really
were you the vocalist of that band too?
no. So I was a backing vocalist, but I used to write a lot of the stuff. So we had this cool like sort of combination where Josh, who was the lead singer, would write like the verses. He was very good with like melodic, rhythmic stuff, and then I was good at writing a chorus. So and then sometimes I would sing, yeah. So eventually he was like, bro, the stuff you're writing suits your voice, sing it. So I started to sing more and more, and then eventually like we were singing like 50-50.
But did you have I don't want to say career or a history of singing prior? Did you sing whilst you were playing piano growing up? Were you in choirs?
No, so I think I would sing because it just feels natural. Like when I went from playing classical to pop or commercial music where there's words, I was like,
Just 1 second.
Oh, is that outside? They're cutting grass.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
yeah.
Can you pick it up? Should be good. Alright, let's keep going.
Oh, wait.
Sorry about that.
No, all good. So it's like naturally you want to like you'll sing along to the tune you're playing, but like I couldn't really sing well. Like my mom even used to say, just stick to the playing. Like she's hectic like that. Biggest fan now, but biggest critic to start, which is also good
Yeah.
because you always want to prove your mom wrong. So
How did it flip? Because of course you had an understanding of key and pitch, but like, I mean, I play a bit of guitar, but I suck at singing.
I don't know. I think for me, it was the desire to want to be a singer. So that's everything. My motivation has always been, okay, what do I want to be? So at first it was a classical pianist. And then like I had a stint where tennis was actually my whole life. So I wanted to be like the next Federer. So I put every flippin' blood, sweat and tears into that. And then it was guitar. And then in the band, I was like, okay, I just want to be in a famous band. And then when I started to get into the singing, I was like, ooh, I dig this. I can see myself being a singer. So I just like worked at it. And I just kept singing more and more and more. And like anything, I tell so many people this is they say, oh no, you must have had a natural talent and you must have always had a voice. And I'm like, no, not really. Like I've obviously developed an ear over time. So I know what sounds crap and what sounds good. So naturally, and I think like also something I learned in engineering is like trial and error. Okay, oh, that's better. What I did there sounds better. So naturally you eliminate all your bad habits and you create this skill. So, and that's basically what happened. I was like, wow, okay, you sound good now, bro. And Oaks were like, flip, that was awesome. Like, you should sing more. And it just basically built up like that.
So it's almost applying an analytical, progressive mindset. to your
100%,
art.
yeah. Because it is, I believe, like, everything's a science. Like, I'm a religious guy as well, but for me, everything works together. And your body, it's the same way with like people that go to gym or bodybuilders. It's like, I believe you can turn yourself into whatever you want with enough dedication. So it's like, okay, my biceps suck, but if you go and gym your biceps every day and you treat them in an environment that's optimal for their growth, they're going to grow, and you're going to eventually have good biceps. And it's the same with vocals, I believe. It's like there's a science behind singing, and there's a science behind how you sing. And like, okay, I know this is what people like to hear, and that sounds good. How do I create that? And then eventually, yeah, you'll figure it out.
Do you feel like that's one of the reasons why you get booked so much?
You mean the approach or like singing?
That approach of constantly trying to think of, okay, cool, is this working? Is this not working? Where do I tweak? Where do I adjust?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I think I have a bit of a perfectionist's attitude and approach. And it is like, if it doesn't sound great, I get mull. So I'm always forcing myself to make it sound as good as possible. And I think coming in with that, whereas like there's a lot of bands that they'll just plug in and start singing and playing and not too worried about it. And most people, the problem is like most laymen's be like, oh, we don't even know the difference. And I'm like, yeah, but you don't know the difference, but you're aware of the difference.
Exactly.
So yeah, so when you're like, oh, but you're so much better than them, I'm like, well, actually, it could actually just be my audio quality. And I'm like, I won't use certain speakers because they're just not as great. So the experience isn't going to be the same. So definitely, I mean, if you push yourself to be better and better and want it to be perfect, like obviously it's a never-ending pursuit of perfection because it doesn't exist, well, in my mind. But you can always get better, and it's a pursuit of excellence. So like, and people will notice that, and just naturally over time it'll be like, oh wow, okay. Even if you have no idea about music, it's a reason why most people like the classics, and like why Queen is so good or whatever. And it's like there's something in good audio and well pursued art.
Yeah, it's the reason why, even though none of us were alive when Mozart was out, but if you place a Mozart in a room with like a bunch of kids or a bunch of people, nobody's gonna
Yeah,
complain.
and you just like, yeah, and it is that. And I think even coming from a classical background helps, because there, especially like the old school teachers, it's like you have to try and nail every little nuance between every little note, every feeling, and try and tap into like, okay, what did Beethoven want to do? And it is intense. It's not like now where it's like bust a few chords and sing the song.
In 4/4.
Yeah, make sure like your rhythm's tight and you're on key, and it's like lacquer. There it's like,
You don't even have to be on key now.
yeah, it's like, no, lift your knuckles slightly. Yeah, it's like insane. So I think that amalgamation of probably the classical background, engineering, and just being obsessive about improvement, yeah, 100% is, I think, like a contributing factor to
Because
the success.
what I see, if I'm going to be quite honest, and what's so interesting about your kind of career trajectory is dudes in Durban aren't doing this. Alright? People in Durban a lot, particularly with the style of music that you're making, they aren't getting a lot of performances, they aren't finding a lot of gigs, and they aren't playing to large crowds. What do you find, particularly when you were just getting in, what do you find is tricky about this industry? Like, why is it not working right now for South African, for Durban musicians specifically?
Yeah, so it's hard because, like I said, there's a lot of factors that are at play. But for me, what I've sort of realized is, I think it's first your attitude. It's very easy to get disheartened, like especially in Durban, because just Durban people are slack and they're half asleep, and it takes an explosion to get them off their seats. Like, so you got to work hard, and you got to be able to not let your, I don't know, like if a crowd isn't working, don't let it get to you and be like, oh no, this sucks and whatever, screw you crowd. You got to just keep pushing and basically force people to be like, okay, this is, and it just takes like a few gigs where you're like, okay, I managed to get everyone on their feet now and they're jolling. It's like, sweet. And then run with that. Like, don't get, people also get inflated egos too quickly, and they think they're like the bee's knees after one good gig. It's like always trying to work, and don't look at the gig. Look at you and look at the audience. So what I try to do is that one couple sitting at that table at this pub, like even if I hate this pub, if I'm tired and they're paying me cuck, I'm like, okay, these guys are just as important as if I was headlining a festival and there was like 20 blonde girls in the front. Like, you want to have the same impact and the same energy, because that's the thing, is like, however you feeling and whatever you're putting into the music is going to come out through the music. So I think for me, a big thing is just to try be as humble as possible and work. Don't be afraid to slog it out and graft. Even if you are really good and yeah, maybe you are above certain gigs, just play. And because every gig is a new fan, it's a new follower, it's you're improving your craft.
And also, I see that's a lot of respecting the craft. That's
Yeah.
a lot of what you're applying to it. Respect the art of the performance itself, and respect the fact that you need these people, and these people are going to be what brings like more into it. And it's not this thing of you're kind of the star, because I've seen exactly what you're talking about, where you'll have a guy, they'll do a couple gigs at the Winston, and now all of a sudden, I'm too big to really come in for 2,000 rand. I can't really,
Yeah. 100%. And so yeah, I think your personal approach, first of all, has to be right, because it is so tricky, especially in Durban, with people being complacent, and there's not really a scene for musicians anymore. It's not like a network of venues that you can go play and people are paying money to see you, and there's a great sound system and there's great promotion. You got to do a sort of everything yourself. Like, all the gigs I play now are either mainly private gigs. So I've done my work, like working at restaurants and pubs and markets, building the network and the desire and the demand. So I've created my own scene in a way. But like, and I won't lie, it is a lot easier for me as a one-man artist.
you
And
have to create your niche.
yeah, and someone playing music that appeals to most people, or at least the people that are having these sorts of parties. Like, so I do feel for the guys that have a lot more niche genres that they performing, and if they have like a full 6-piece band, like if you're a 6-piece metal band, there's maybe like 1 or 2 places you can play, and you're not going to make a living from it.
Yeah, and for us it's particularly trippy, because when we were growing up, when we were going to high school in like 2010, 11, 12, there was Live, there was the Winston,
Yeah. Unit
was
11.
Unit 11. There were multiple spots where you knew
Yeah.
every single Friday and Saturday there'd be gigs.
Yeah.
Whether it was bands you knew or bands you didn't know. And even the scene was so pumping at that time. You had Gangs of Ballet, you had Black Bat, the Anti-Retro Vinyls, Desmond the Tutu was always here, Fruits and Veggies. Like, it was
Yeah.
always such like a pumping time. And then you watch that whole era kind of just die. But something that I realized, and it's really sad, is that a lot of music that we grew up listening to, a lot of those genres, people just don't listen to them anymore. So as you, as an artist who sings and plays guitar, you're finding that your niche or your potential crowd is just getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller.
100%. Yeah. It is like, especially in South Africa, and like if I have to sort of,
Sorry, time you good. Just I can see this foot, that foot. Okay, yeah,
This one.
yeah, good. We sorted.
yeah, like if you have to sort of like demarcate and say, okay, well, if you're a white indie band versus like a black hip hop artist, like I don't think race or colors isn't a thing, but it naturally will be a thing, because of that's we a country like that. We have
Everything
many
is
different
cultural
races,
racial.
and yeah, and some there's less white people than black people. So naturally, like for me, it's like, because I probably mainly most of my friends are white, I know what white people like, so that's what I play and that's what I like. So it is, and it's very tough, because then it's like some people are like, oh, why don't you like make like a hip hop song, or I'm a piano groove or something, and I'm like, and I get where they're coming from, because then you expanding your market, but it's not. That's not what I want to do.
You have to stay authentic to yourself, and you can't
Yeah.
be cash grabbing, because for me, it would be so disingenuous for you to essentially, because what it is it's whitewashing, and in itself, in doing that action is super, super problematic, and I hate using that word problematic. but like, because what you're doing is you're basically just, you would be profiting off of black culture. I respect you for the fact that you choose not to profit off of black culture. I mean, I dislike artists like Holly Ray, where they come and then they soak up parts of the African culture, and then as quickly as they soak up the good parts of it, and as quickly as they utilize it to monetize themselves, they run back into Caucasian culture and lifestyle. I respect the fact that you go,
Yeah,
listen,
that's
I'm not
cool.
going to steal this so that it will make me richer. I know what I do and I know what my people do. The fact of the matter, though, and what's really messed up, is that people, especially these days, will call you racist for having that belief, when it's the exact opposite.
Yeah, and it is, and that's tough. I mean, like, on a side of the music, it's so hard to sort of to feel like you have freedom to say and do what you want to do. Because for me, that's the biggest thing I love about music, and actually my favorite thing about being a live musician and playing so many different venues in a country like this, is that I can have 10 different cultural groups, races, generations jolling in front to like Bob Marley, and I'm like, this is what music's supposed to do, like unite. And it does. It feels like more and more it's a divide. And then, like, to add to that is just in terms of what, because the biggest problem is, I think, people, is when music becomes a fashion rather than like your personal taste in an art form.
Yeah.
Because now someone will just push, like, a record label and a brand will find an artist and be like, okay, let's make them an icon, and just force feed everyone this
Industry plants.
Yeah. And then people just, like, they don't actually think for themselves anymore, but because they know this name, because it's their friends have told them about it, they're like, oh, okay, let's flock and let's follow this. And then that's all you hear on the radio. And then suddenly it's like, oh yeah, there's this massive artist. And I'm like, but do you actually like their music? And there's 10 incredible local artists that are waiting to be heard, and that actually you'd probably have a better time listening to and seeing live. But now we're fighting this marketing and these giants.
And we're told that this artist is incredible.
Yeah. And it does it. That's what makes me, like, angry, because also, like, radio and labels have the power to do what they want. So I'm like, just do something good then. Like, play more local. It's like, don't, and like a radio station, I'm like, you make so much money as it is. Maybe just don't say, okay, I'm gonna only have to play what Universal Music tells us to play.
And that confuses me, because I thought the government made a mandate saying that it has to be 90%, but when I listen to the radio, I'm not hearing South African music, man.
Yeah, I think they did for a while, and that was the thing, is I think, like, I don't know if it was a ploy or what, because it was like 6 months, and it was great, because that was actually when I was in that indie band, and for us it was awesome, because our song reached like 18th on the SA Top 30.
Nice.
And we got great traction, and it just shows you, I'm like, people actually liked it. And it shows you, like, I think people are scared to be like, oh, if I don't just play Justin Bieber or this and that, our followers are going to drop. I'm like, they're going to follow you anyway. You have the power here. And I think that's what's kiff. And obviously it's hard, because
But also radio, they're grasping for the last drops of followers. Or listeners, sorry, because so many people are just like, well, I'm going to play something on my phone because radio's crap, or I'm going to listen to a podcast.
Yeah. Do it. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, maybe they're just trying to stick with this, okay, we got this formula that works. And so I get it. I know everyone's fighting a battle, and I also don't know the ins and outs of it. I don't always know what's going on in the backgrounds of the record labels, and people are trying to make a living. It's just my perspective, and when you're asking, like, why is it tricky to do music as a living, or break through as an artist, like, these are just the things I see, and I believe, and it's great now that we have the platforms like Spotify and Apple Music. So then it comes to what the most important thing is actually your fans and your listeners. They need to, like, step up and be like, okay, cool. If this guy is playing a show,
I'm going.
yeah, I'm going, and I'm willing to pay $100, and I'll buy a CD, and I'll do that because like, if everyone does that, and you slowly build this like genuine, real following of people, you can literally collectively make a lot of people's lives. And then in turn, there's more music, there's more people willing to do music, able to do music, and the scene builds itself. And I get it, it's hard. Like, luckily for me, like, I don't get disheartened. And I'm not afraid to just keep slogging at it. You have some days where you're like, I just want to throw in the towel. And let me just go get a normal job because I just can't handle this anymore. And so you gotta be able to get over those days, and also just like live in the moment and find value in what you're doing. So like for me, it's like we've been given gifts. Okay, so like as a religious person, everyone is blessed with a role in this world, and different gifts. Whether it's just being able to communicate with people, whether it's okay, you're gonna give the people music, you're gonna heal people, and like just be pumped with that. So it's like flip the fact that I get to pour this out. I don't know what impact it's having on people's lives, but if it changes one person's life at a gig, then boom, it's worth it.
That's amazing.
Even if it's like a small, tiny, crappy little gig. And I think if you just keep that attitude and enjoy what you're doing, rather than be like, have money as your greatest motivator, or how big is my following, and what is everyone else's perception.
Because sometimes that's what it's all about. I mean, I find particularly with me with this podcast, I just want to create that one episode that somebody's gonna watch and that inspired them to do the such and such.
Yeah, that's awesome, bro.
That helped them to get to the thing and they were able to make it in whatever they were doing because they got that little bit of inspiration, or they learned that, oh, this is how you actually do the thing I've always wanted to do. So I really, really back that, man. But just going back, like, so I remember the kind of beginning of your career when you were still doing very, very, very small gigs. How have you kind of built yourself up or built up that crowd to where it is right now? And how did you get the gigs in the first place? Because I know a lot of artists, they don't even know where to start.
Yeah. So I think I was very lucky. And I still do small gigs. And I think that's what's been cool. And it is also like part of the journey is what sort of gigs to take and for how long. It's like don't give up on the small stuff so quickly, because also that's what makes you, and it's still where you hone your craft. But yeah, I think word of mouth has been my biggest sort of benefactor. And I think also just like lucky that I'm like a friendly person, and I like to be social and like make mates wherever I go. So I think it started off with like I built a network easily just talking to guys, and also like, so because I think if someone likes you, they want to be like, okay, I want to support it. And even if they don't believe in, like, even if they're like looking beyond the music, they can be like, oh cool, yeah, he's got talent, but like let's help him out. And I was also in the beginning, I was willing to pretty much do anything for nothing. So like, and that's what's kiff, like when you were saying like with the podcasts, like even when you start, like, okay, it's costing you a lot of money to set stuff up and hire it in, but you're also trying to like keep an excellent standard from the beginning. So I think that's what a mindset I had, was like, okay, no, I've got to be better, and like, let's see, what are people providing? So what are the other artists doing? How can I be better than that? And it is a competition thing, but it's also not. But it's like, it's just a natural. Really. Yeah, and it's a natural thing to be like, okay, like any business, you also got to treat it like a business. It's like, okay, I'm selling a service. Is someone else selling the service too? How can I find a place that I can sell enough of this and there's a market? Yeah, so I think just naturally. Cool, what's happening? I was going to quickly show you guys how I loop Shape of You by Ed Sheeran. So I like to start with a guitar as a foundation. Maybe add a little layer. Add the keys. And the drums make everybody groove. That's your basic foundation of the loop.
The club isn't the best place to find love until the bar is where I go. Me and my friends taking shots at the table, drinking fast, and then we talk slow. If you come over and start a big conversation with just me, and trust me, I'll give it a chance. I put my hand, stop, a man, a van on the jukebox, then we start to dance, and I'm singing like, girl, you know I want your love. Your love was handmade for somebody like me. I'ma now follow my lead. I may be crazy, don't mind me saying, boy, let's not talk too much. Grab on my waist and put that body on me. I'ma now follow my lead. I'ma now follow my lead. I'm in love with the shape of you. You push and pull like a magnet do, and now my heart is falling too. I'm in love with your body. Last night you were in my room, and now my bed sheets smell like you every day. Discovering something brand new. Every day discovering something brand new. I'm in love with the shape of you. The shape of you, yeah,
Cape Town, and I was like, wow, I could form a full band live doing this loop thing. And then over time I was like, okay, my aim is to loop only. So I started maybe doing 60% backtracks, 40% looping, and then just all looping. And over the years, it's like each gig I want to get better and better and better. But I was very like, I'm a bit of a people pleaser too. So I think that helped. Is like every gig, if someone's like, oh, do a couple more or whatever, I'm like, yeah, sweet, lacquer, I'm keen. Hang around for a drink, awesome. So I started just to build like friends, like make a lot of friends and a network like that. And I think then people are willing to support you because they're like, this oak's genuine. I know him personally now, and I feel like they have a little bit of an investment in the music. Hey, my mate, let's book this guy.
All I'm hearing though is there's no shortcuts. Like,
yeah.
Follow me, because I thought I'd come into this and you tell me some secret. Nah, bro. There's this Facebook group you go onto, and nah, dude, there's no shortcuts. Like, all I'm hearing is it's hours in practice. It's hours of you just understanding the craft itself, and then actually when you're in there working your way up from the bottom, earning nothing and getting people to know you. That's crazy, man. Because a lot of people think that you just have this raw natural talent. One day you just went on a stage and people have just been like taking you to shows ever since, dude.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think that's what's cool now, is to see, especially the guys that saw me 2 years ago and see me now, and they're like, you come a long way. Because sometimes you can, when you have the slow gradual improvement, it might be hard to see. And it's some days I'm like, shit, are people tired of my set? Is it like old school now? One day there's going to be some lighty who rocks up and just blows me out of the water. And it's good to have that, because it's also motivation to be like, okay, no, you got to keep growing.
You have to keep hustling.
But it is, yeah. And I think, the biggest thing is just value yourself in what you're doing. And because sometimes it can feel like you just a pawn. or just there for people's entertainment. Like, throw money at me, I'll sing a song. Because you're in these environments where everyone's like just jolling and having a good time and living their best lives, and you there sweating, like trying to get a smile on people's faces. Sometimes I think people can maybe feel they don't respect the job as much as they should. And my belief is like, like I said, everyone's
done a lot with like performing at markets.
Yeah, 100%. Like, sometimes you're just like in the background and you're like putting your heart out there, and people aren't giving it back to you, and you can't let that go, like, get to your head. Because just how people are, and I think if you just put yourself in people's shoes, where, because I know I'm that kind of person. Before, like, even if I saw something that really impressed me, or I was like, I'd just be like, yo, that's awesome, I dig it, that's really cool, and not actually think, maybe stand up and clap and go tell them they're freaking rad. And it actually, like, I really appreciate the people that do that, because it's not easy to do that. And it's those people that like really have kept me going, because when you hear that, like, I'm like, jeez. And they're always like, oh, you probably get this all the time. I'm like, not always. And when I do, I'm like, thank you, Lord, because like,
That just made your whole day.
yeah. And then it's like, I will play another gig now just because you said that. So it's taking those little wins, and yeah, it can some days not be glamorous, but just treat it like other people have their own roles. And it's like, I mean, if you're a receptionist, like, shout out to receptionists, but I mean, put it in their shoes. It's like, they're probably going to have less glamorous days than I do. But you know what? They're still working. They're adding value.
Still out there with a smile on
Yeah.
their face.
They benefiting someone somewhere. Just treat yourself like that. And yeah, just don't worry about what other people perceive. Yeah, so I think that's all part of it.
I find that that's a huge one. Having to ensure that you are confident in your lane and what you do.
Yeah, 100%.
So lastly, just before we kind of get into the performance, I want to talk to you about your sound itself and how you kind of shape it and where a lot of your inspirations come from.
Sure. Yeah, it's so hard because, I mean, I think I definitely have realized I have certain influences, and sometimes I maybe don't know how it influences me exactly, but yeah, for me, songwriting and that is a very spontaneous, impulsive process. So I'll just jam, really, and then whatever comes out. So obviously, like, over the years, I think I just like to play a lot of music and a lot of different music. So naturally your body's going to like tend towards certain styles or things based on what you play. So I think a lot of the covers I've played will influence my sound. And so, I mean, my covers are so diverse. I love, like, reggae is definitely a strong influence. I love, like, Bob Marley, and I love, like, turning other songs into reggae just because it makes people feel happy. And it's like an infectious beat. But, like, I mean, I played from the most commercial dance and pop songs to old country to I also do worship at church. So I've got this amalgamation, and definitely, like, local as well. I love, like, the African sound, whatever that is. And, like, even, like, if I look at, say, like, the modern stuff and, like, Taxi or Kwaito or whatever, because, like, I'll chuck Ngalagata in. And there's something awesome about, like, if a South African song just resonates with any South African. So from, like, that to then Johnny Clegg to, like, Jeremy Loops, and then just blending it all together. So yeah.
South African is a brag.
Yeah, exactly. So, and there's something about, like, just SA culture that's like, yes, and I think definitely our artists translate better live.
Oh my gosh, I agree with that so much.
Yeah,
I
like,
think of Desmond and the Tutus. Like,
yeah.
Desmond and Tutus, basically, you'll listen to Peter on the album.
Yeah, exactly.
But other than that,
100%, and like, and it is, and that's what's kiff as well, is don't try and chase something that you're not. It's about what you enjoy, and what the audience is doing. Because it's like, okay, you're not going to compare them to like Queen in terms of like on the recordings and the complexity of it. But flip, bro, like you go to a Desmond gig and I leave there like happy, man, and
Excited.
and frothing, yeah.
Yeah.
And so like I was saying, like I write live a lot, I improv, and I immediately will make songwriting decisions live based on the audience. So based on the feeling I get and they get, because I know when they're digging it and I'm digging it, I just get this like adrenaline rush. So a lot of my sound and stuff is improv. Obviously based on the instruments I play, they naturally have become a foundation. So I usually will start with guitar, acoustic guitar, because that's where I'm most comfortable to create a foundation rhythm. So like, and then I'll add stuff around it. I love organs, I love brass, and it's probably because like the keyboard I use, the sounds I found early on that work. And then obviously when I go into the studio, I just like to go wild. Like, so I'll take those basic ideas, try different sounds, figure it out. But yeah, it's so hard because like if you look at my EP, there's like so many different sort of sounds, and you could almost like each song could be almost a different artist, I'd say. Like there's a blues rock, like Tidal Wave. It's like a hard hitting sort of like blues anthem. Then there's like a dance, acoustic dance, like full on South African, like The Beach, like just happy. And then like Deliverance, which is sort of like maybe like a Johnny Clegg sort of vibe song with like African choirs and toms and natural drums.
Doing really well right now.
Yeah, I just dig that song, and for me that was cool. I was worried about that album, and actually was just gonna lose all those songs and just write new ones because I'd had them for so long. Because I basically recorded and produced them as I was learning to record and produce. So by the time I was like ready, I was so gutful of those songs. But you know what? They demonstrate a different part of my life in each time. And for me, it's like there'll be a song for everyone in that. But now, my new stuff, it's like purely based on probably like live vibe. So going from a personal story where I like started writing in my bedroom and getting deep and more intimate, now it's like they based off like loops that I've made live, and I'm like, okay, I want to make these people dance.
Wow, that's almost the opposite way that most people do it.
Yeah, 100%. And that's why I love to do a lot of originals in my set, because they're immediately crafted to make people dance and to create a vibe and an atmosphere.
And you were telling me that with those originals, those are the ones where you're like freestyle looping.
Yeah, so obviously like you don't have constraints in your mind when you're going into it. It's like there are no words I have to sing, and especially when people don't know them yet, you can, because I make up words all the time. Like I'm lazy with that, where it's like if I learn a cover now, I'll listen to it on the way to a gig, and I'll be like, okay, I kind of know the chorus. I'll wing the rest. Because also most people, they just like, if they hear the chorus or whatever, they're like, fine. Some songs are different, like, and I'm like, okay, I better learn all the words. But I dig to do that because then I can just go nuts. And it isn't like, from the first time I play that song to 10 gigs later, it's like totally different. Because over time you like craft, oh, that worked, I'm going to put that in. And then obviously when I go into studio, then it even differs up even more. And then I get this final product that I sort of like will bring some of the studio elements in and what works live, and then be like,
It's kind
sweet.
of a marriage of all the places that you create the sounds.
Yeah, 100%.
That was really cool.
And I think that's like that song, The Beach, it's really like a depiction of, because I wrote that live. Like that was the first song I wrote live. I remember just playing the chords and I was like, ooh, that's kiff. And I got a great response. So for me, like I almost say like that song is thank you to all the audiences that I played for those first year and a half, 2 years. You all fed towards the creation of that song.
That's dope.
Yeah, and I think that's why it connects with people the best.
That's amazing. You have a beautiful way of weaving actual emotion into the music itself.
Sure.
And, like your life experiences. I find that that's when people make their best music. Like, I know this is gonna be a weird comparison, but like Kanye West,
Oh yeah.
post when he broke up with Amber Rose, he dropped My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, his best album of all time. He just took all of that pain and turned it into art.
Yeah.
So post Kim, it's gonna be lit.
I got you.
But like, man, I think that is so
Easy.
dope. I just want to ask you about one more thing before we go into this performance. You're telling me this really cool story about when you were doing your album launch event, and I think that story really encapsulates a lot of the reality for artists starting up right now, because you guys were worried that you weren't gonna fill that space initially because of so many reasons.
Yeah. So like, honestly, cards on the table, I eventually got convinced because I was basically speaking about it with a friend who runs the venue Willow Way, where we had it in Hillcrest. And the first thing was like, oh, I want to try my new loop station with a band, like, and she's like, yeah, cool, come do it here. And then we started talking, and eventually was like, oh, maybe if we should just run a full event, like a music festival. I wonder if it would work. And then like we cancelled twice. Like we had dates penciled, and we're like, I'm not gonna be ready with the band, or we worried about this. And eventually she was like, screw it, let's just do it. And I was like, okay, fine. And then I was like, and at first we were gonna get a big artist, because I was shitting myself to be like the headline artist. Like I've got a good following, but like in the bigger scheme of things, it's still small in terms of numbers. So I was like, my biggest gigs were still like festivals where people were coming just to the festival. I happened to be there, or opening for someone big. So I was like, okay, but let's just go for it. And I was like, I never got to launch my EP because I launched it basically in the middle of like lockdown 4. So I'll make this my EP launch as well. And we first, because we couldn't find any big artists that were willing to come, like, or they just didn't reply. I think everyone got so lazy and just not used to having bookings because of the lockdowns, especially the big guys. They just like didn't respond to emails. So we were like, screw it, okay, I'm going to headline and I'm going to do my EP launch, and we'll get 2 other local artists that we enjoy listening to, and let's just make it a KIF day. So we did. We put so much time into it, like getting the socials right, how to sell the event to people. And then I was like, I've never asked people to pay like any money to come and watch me. Now I'm asking for like 160 Rand. And yeah, and I just know how Durban is, because I mean, like, I've played events where I've opened for like Matthew Mole and Jamie Loops, and the organizers are like, yeah, we sold out this concert 2 weeks before, when they were playing in Cape Town, and we sold 90% out like 10 minutes before Jamie Loops came on in Durban. So it's like Durban is just, people are last minute, they slack, and we all know we are. So that was our stress, and I was like, and then the weather, we're like, oh, it's gonna rain, because it just always rains. But we're like, we're in it now, we're gonna do it, because we had like a lot of big costs, because they were first of all taking the risk of closing their venue for the day for this, and we were getting a big sound system in, which was gonna cost like 15-20 grand, and that was like at a friendly price. So we were like, hey, let's just YOLO. But yeah, I think we just always I had faith, and I was actually very chilled about it. Once I'd made the decision we're doing it, I was like, well, we're doing it. There's no point in stressing.
That's the acceptance.
Yeah. And then, like, funny enough, like, the venue owner, who was so chilled, he's like, let's just do it. Started stressing so much as it getting closer, because we sold, like, I think, like 30 tickets, like, in the first 3 weeks. And she's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be broke for the next 3 months. And I'm like, hey, at least we got 30 people. 30 people willing to pay 160 Rand to come see me. Woo! And I think eventually before the day, we sold like 110. We're like, okay, you know what? At first, when I first was planning my EP, I was literally said, I'll be happy if I get 50 people in the door.
Nice.
So I was like, I was pumped, and I was ready, and I was just focused on the music. And then, yeah, like, I think for me, like, God came through, and also just seeing over the last 2.5 years that there were some people that believed in me, and we ended up getting, I think, 320 people through the door at over 160 rand, which was like, I think, better than some of like the big concerts they had recently with huge artists. And I almost cried like 4 times on the day, because like the sun just came out first time in like 5 days, and I was like, just thank you, Jesus. And I was like, and I think just it was a good testament to like work hard, have faith, but also like put faith in yourself and work at it. Like we marketed the shit out of it.
You can't just have faith. You need to have faith and then put effort in.
Yeah, and you're gonna make yourself. And it was just really cool to like see how people showed up, and I think they can when they just get the right bit of. So I think that culture just needs to change. Of like, okay, we're gonna go out and we're gonna support people, and we're just gonna be lacquer to each other, and because it's like if everyone just supported everyone a little bit, many more people would be doing much better than they are.
We would be like totally good, actually.
Yeah.
And our scene would have so much more diversity in it.
100%. Because like for me, after that event, I was like, okay, if I and these 2 other bands can pull a crowd like this, we could create a platform for all the small bands and just give them like this feeling of like, okay, I'm worthy to be on a big stage, selling tickets, and being the star of the show. Like people coming to watch you sing and do your craft. And I think just that confidence that would give to people there'd be a lot more artists around.
Exactly.
And we could almost build our own scene. We don't have to worry about record labels and all that stuff. Because actually, like, I think 2 weeks after that, I saw this, I can't remember who it was. It was some big hip-hop artist from like the 90s. And he said, once he left the label, he was like, okay, maybe I can do this on my own. And he ended up making like 50 times more money in like the first 6 months than he had in like 3 years doing stuff on his own.
Oh yeah.
He had less sales, less people at his concerts. Everything, like statistics went down, but it showed the genuine followers, and he was taking home all the return.
And it shows how much they take. Like one of the things they were saying, if Drake were to stop everything and say, I'm no longer with the studio, he would make like $60 million in like 2 weeks.
Oh yeah.
Like if Drake dropped an album and he was like, this is completely independent, I paid for everything, he would make unbelievable money.
Yeah. And it's like, just to try and have that mindset where you can make yourself. It's a business. You're going to have to invest time, effort, and your own money. But if you believe in it, and it's like anything, it's like any business, bro. It's like, if you're starting it up, you're taking a risk. And you're putting your heart out there, and yeah. But like if you're your own product, sell it like you would sell anything that you believe in.
It's amazing, man. I love the analytical way you kind of think about all of that kind of stuff. So, just before we kind of wrap this up, just tell us a little bit about what your plans are for 2022.
So first off the bat is I'm itching to release another song, and I've had one in the pipeline, and yeah, it's funny because like when I start recording something, like the first couple of days I fly, it just all comes together, and I'm like, and then I hit like this wall, like when it gets to the nitty gritty parts. So I sort of just got over that wall, like in the last week. I got a whole bunch of new equipment that I bought. I think that just helped inspire. Sometimes it's nice to have fancy things around you. So yeah, hopefully the next few months I'm going to release that. I think it's going to go down really well. It's a good, feel good, like written live dancey tune. And then I have 3 or 4 more I'd like to release. Just singles through the year. Keep people, keep them guessing. And yeah, just in general, I'm going to be all over the show. I've got a lot of weddings. I'm basically the wedding singer this year. Like, I think I have 35 weddings booked already. So if you're getting married, probably find your wife has booked me. Yeah, and it's kiff because I'm going to get to go to like Cape Town, Joburg, Plet, Mpumalanga, Limpopo. And I'm going to London for a couple gigs in July as well, which I'm very pumped about.
Wow.
Yeah, and also just keen for like bigger gigs and gatherings again this year. So like Splashy Fen, since that last curfew lift, I think we had like 2,000 outdoors now. So I think we're going to be able to have some music festivals this year again, which is my favorite thing to do.
I didn't even know Splashy was still happening.
Yeah, so they haven't cancelled it, so I should have 2 sets there, which is my favorite place to play like on the planet. Yeah, so busy year, and then just always kind of go with the flow. I'm still trying to figure this whole thing out. Like social media and TikTok and all that stuff is such a hack, but I'm starting to enjoy it, and I'll make more videos, and also I think just show people what I do more in terms of looping. So I think I'm going to be more active on YouTube and recording loop sessions, and
I mean, we love to see it, man.
I know, and like
It looks like magic, bro.
shot. Like before, I was like, nah, people just want to consume little 30-second snippets at a time. But actually, there's guys like they send me videos of them having parties, and like I'm on the screen on YouTube, like, and I'm like, oh, there's only 2 songs they can listen to though. So I think this year I want to
Well, there were 3, and then you dropped Echoes.
build that up. Yeah, the song is worth more than that recording. The video is great, but the audio, like, I will do it again. It's on the plan for this year.
Yeah, do it again. We'll redo the whole video.
Yeah. Shout out to you from helping from the beginning, bro.
Shout out, bro. Shout out. It's crazy, actually. It's been a couple of years. But, man, thank you so much for this interview, bro.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Like, if you're a local artist listening to this, man, this is the source, bro. This is really,
Oh, yeah,
really
that means a lot.
something people can learn from.
I hope so. That's the aim. Yeah.
And now we're going to move over to a performance.
Rolling.
Have you ever dreamed of a land so far away, where the people come to love and the people come to play? Woman who ruled it all, her name was Hosanna. A blue-eyed angel with the curly hair, and dreams so bright they filled up the air, and we would sorely miss her. They said her name was Hosanna. Sing, oh, Hosanna. A mighty power above, she held her fire that burned my heart right up. She bound my dreams, no other man could ever see the light between her eyes. It was divine. When my heart white for you, like a fiery pyrenees, I know it's true. When I feel you are my darkest night, I know I am disturbed. Hosanna. This night I know I am disturbed. I know I am disturbed. Hosanna is the cure of the free, a broken-hearted girl who wants me, shining on the day of a dream. A hard day never on me. a singer who sings song, a miracle mouth that God with love, and I know we got this song. Once or twice a day between the miracle mile, a Parkinson's disease in a foreign isle, waited upon this song they called her Havana. I wondered every day become a moonlit storm, striking the night, a shrieking love, a tone they said it all, her name was Hosanna. A tone they said it all, her name was Hosanna. When my heart burns white for you, like a fiery furnace, I know it's true. When I feel you are my darkest night, I know I am disturbed. I know I am disturbed. Hosanna. Yeah, I know I am disturbed. I know I am disturbed. Darling, I know, I know, I know. Darling, I know. Hosanna. Thank you. Hosanna. Cool, so I'm just going to run you guys through my gear. Pretty simple setup, I suppose. So yeah, guitar, obviously most obvious. I usually use that to lay down most of my bass rhythms. And then this keyboard is the real master. It's just got a ton of awesome samples. So like, here's the brass, some electric pianos, and then drums, different kits like bass, got some lacquer bass samples here. It's like a nice acoustic bass, and then you can just go crazy like some synths. Yeah, so that's the Roland XPS 10. So both these guys run into this big bad boy here. It's called the Head Rush looper board. It's probably the most complex sort of loop station. I've actually just started using it. And yeah, this just allows me to loop the stuff in. So I'll just start off with a track, lay down the tempo, and then I choose like track 3 I'll lay in guitars. Cool, and then that's how you lay down a loop, and then you can add drums, etc. Yeah, just go crazy from there. So obviously I build the full band, the bass, drums, synths. This is awesome because you have basically 4 different layers you can add instruments to and then take them away as you need. So I can have breakdown sections, big sections, solos, build-ups. So yeah, it's an incredible piece of technology which allows me to do this. And then yeah, the rest is just all standard studio stuff to help me record it all. But this is the rig that basically travels with me to every gig. And then yeah, just a nice reverb pedal for the guitar over there to make it sound super roomy. But yeah, thanks so much guys. I hope you enjoyed the rig rundown and the loops and the podcast. Keep supporting. I'll see you soon.